Hey, Lark and Rose here, and I wanted to talk about a cultural phenomenon that I don't remember it really existing, at least not to this level, back in my day, 100,000 years ago. I think it's a relatively recent development, and it's obvious all over the place. It's mainly a cultural thing, but at the end of this I will tie it in with politics because it totally relates. It has to do with how children and everybody really are now raised to think that their opinions are equally valid, that they should have pride and self-esteem, and that the focus should be on that instead of the focus being on having abilities or skills or knowledge or something that you should actually have pride in. In other words, they skip the substance. They skip being able to do anything and go right to feel good about yourself. Now, I don't want people just randomly feeling bad about themselves, but this is a different thing. This is a different phenomenon. And I'm going to give as an example a thing I saw in prison all over the place, which was really depressing. Now, a lot of people who are in prison grew up poor. They grew up like in single family or single parent households, didn't have money, didn't have a good education, so disadvantaged in a zillion different ways through no fault of their own. And a bunch of people like work really hard and try to get out of that. But I see a cultural phenomenon, and it shows up a lot in a bunch of people who are in prison, which is this strange phenomenon of boasting and being braggadocious and arrogant despite having nothing to be arrogant about. I'll also point out that you see this, at least in some rap, where the songs, I prefer songs with notes, but whatever, so many of them are just about telling how awesome you are. I'm the baddest, I'm the coolest, nobody can compete with me, I'm so bad, I'm so awesome, yada, 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 on and on and on ad infinitum, with nothing backing it up. Like they're just saying how awesome they are. And again, this obviously isn't all rap, but it's a very obvious part of the modern culture. And it isn't just that culture you see it in. You see it in, black, white, all over the place. This mentality that I'm so awesome and the measure of my awesomeness is me thinking I'm awesome. And so it really is sort of like a gorilla thumping his chest. Look at me, I'm big and bad, look how awesome I am because I say I'm awesome. That's what I refer to as cultural narcissism, where people are raised to worship themselves instead of raised to better themselves, to actually learn a skill or learn something or be able to do something to actually have pride in. And the thing is, when people have this overblown sense of pride in nothing, it's fake, it's superficial, they don't even believe it. And some of the people in prison who are, the loudest trash talkers and, seem the most egotistical are total snowflakes. Like, they have no real self-esteem because they know deep down inside they have nothing to be proud of. Now again, their upbringing and their, where they came from was no fault of their own. A million disadvantages. I can't say I wouldn't be the exact same mindset in the exact same place if I went through what they went through. But it's a cultural thing that children learn. They're taught this, and they're even taught this in school, the thing of feeling pride in your opinions. And so many young people that I've seen, down to kids, they talk as if they know everything when they all the way don't know anything. And the thing is, humility is a very useful function that seems to be lacking all over the place now, that if you can't do something or don't know something, like, shut up and learn something. Either learn something that you then know, or learn how to do something, learn a skill, learn a talent, learn something. But to just be arrogant and pompous that, well, my opinion is equally valid because I had it, that's a fairly new development. And I don't remember that from back when I was growing up. Like, you have an opinion. If it's wrong, it's wrong. You don't have a reason to have pride in that. So, but I saw that all over the place in prison, and it was sort of depressing because these people, it's like they're trying to talk themselves into how great they are by trying to talk everybody else into how great they are, instead of trying to make themselves great by actually accomplishing something or knowing something or learning something or doing something other than telling the world how awesome you are. And so you see it, like I saw it in prison, you see it in the education system. You see it in the culture, the whole reality TV thing. Like, how many people are there now? And I pay no attention to it, but every once in a while I accidentally get exposed to that stupidity. How many people are now sort of celebrities for being loud and obnoxious and for no other reason? Like on reality TV, people follow these characters that are just these personalities that are just obnoxious and arrogant and nothing else. Like, what are you actually contributing to the world other than telling people how awesome you are, which isn't contributing anything? It's this weird mental disorder that you have this big pile of self-esteem, fake self-esteem, backed by absolutely nothing. There's nothing there. And most of the people who really are like geniuses or really creative or really knowledgeable about something, they don't go around telling how awesome they are and how much better than everybody else they are. They're focused on actually doing the thing that matters, whether it's creativity or learning or you know, some athletic skill, something that they actually focus on to make themselves worthwhile instead of just trying to talk everybody else into the fact that they're worthwhile and they're the awesomest. So now I'm going to tie this into politics. The only reason Donald Trump won is because cultural narcissism is rampant in society, and a bunch of worthless dumbasses related to another worthless dumbass whose one main talent is saying how awesome he is. This fake-ass self-esteem that Donald Trump has when he's just an idiot. And you look at a bunch of other worthless idiots going, rah, 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 we relate to him. And so up until now, mostly you have politicians who are you know, slick spin doctors, and they try to sound all educated and important and knowledgeable. And their way of duping the masses was to make the clueless masses think, wow, he sounds really smart because I didn't understand any of that. We should put him in power, which is not at all okay either. That's not a good thing. But in the case of Donald Trump, it's like, he's one of us. He's a loud, obnoxious, arrogant, rude jackass just like us. Hooray for him. He doesn't have any principles. Like, nobody follows Donald Trump for his principles because he doesn't freaking have any. Not political, not philosophical, none of any kind at all. And like the people who are pretending he's libertarian or pretending he's constitutionalist or pretending he's conservative, pretending he's anything, are lying to themselves. That's their excuse that they're making up to try to justify supporting somebody, when the only real reason they're going rah, rah, rah is because he's an arrogant, obnoxious asshole. That is why Donald Trump got elected, because a bunch of people who grew up with this cultural narcissism were saying how awesome you are is the measure of how awesome you are in their mind. Those people went rah, rah, rah for Donald Trump, who gets up there and tells how awesome he is, and I'm the best, and I'm tremendous, and everything I do is so spectacular. And it's just sick and disgusting to watch from anybody who A, has any humility, and B, has any actual self-esteem that comes from accomplishment or knowledge or talent or skill or something other than just making crap up and saying how awesome you are. So it really is a pathetic statement about the American culture right now that would win. Like, decent, honest, decent human beings can be duped by the normal kind of politician, which isn't a good thing, but they can be duped by it by someone who goes up there and pretends to be compassionate and caring, pretends to be intelligent and wise and have these great plans, and people go, oh, well, it sounds like he has some plans. Let's put him in charge and see what happens. And they get duped and stabbed in the back and whatever. But then along comes Donald Trump, who's still just a puppet, and he's part of the establishment. The notion that he's anti-establishment is just ridiculous. If you look where he came from and what he does and what he says and what he's doing right now, nothing about it is anti-establishment. But he didn't get there by just being anti-establishment. He got there by being an arrogant, obnoxious asshole, and that really is the only reason he won. Just because he tapped into the cultural narcissism of American society, and all the people who think that going out there and being loud and obnoxious shows how awesome you are. And the ultimate irony is that the self-esteem is all fake and the people know it. And so all these people are like trying to be so alpha and tough because, yeah, I support Donald Trump because he speaks his mind and he says it and he makes the liberals cry and blah, blah. Those are the most insecure, worthless, vapid, empty individuals in the world because they have nothing except fear. They're driven only by fear, and they want some pretend alpha like Donald Trump to save the day for them. They're scared and they're weak, which is why they want someone in charge of them. Who the hell who's actually confident and accomplished in some way is looking around for somebody to save the day? We need a political master to save the day. Only the people who are like him, who are culturally narcissistic and yet have no real self-esteem, go rah, rah, rah because they can relate to Donald Trump. And it's sad to see that in the culture. And so what I would say, this is obviously a long-term solution. Right now we have this clown in the White House instead of some other clown, mass murdering clown in both cases, is don't teach your children to have self-esteem based on nothing. Now, don't teach them to despise themselves or feel bad about themselves, but there was a time when if you didn't know what the hell you were talking about, you shut the hell up and listened until you knew something. And then you could have a discussion and say what you wanted. But now there's this weird culture that everybody's opinion is equally valid. And so you get these colossally stupid ideas and opinions and this arrogance and this fake self-esteem all over the place. And that passes for the national debate on how things should be. And it's so weird. And it's entirely a result of children and then adults being taught that just by existing, they deserve respect and admiration and they're great. And we should feed their egos and feed their self-esteem instead of saying, if you can't do that, okay, that's a thing you can't do. If you don't know that, that's a thing you don't know. There's a big long list of things you can't do and that you don't know. Skills you don't have, knowledge you don't have. Go get some of it before you go out there telling the world how awesome you are. Because when you do that, you're not actually helping your real self-esteem and you look like a jackass. And if enough people do that, then they elect one of themselves and we have the presidency of Donald Trump. This bizarre, pathetic spectacle of a delusional narcissist, chronic liar, batshit loony that lots of people are cheering for, even though there's no principle. There's not even a bad principle underlying his whole babbling at the mouth, ranting on and on. We're going to do this and we're going to make America great again. All this just random garbage of we're going to cut these taxes and then we're going to grow these taxes. And I believe in gun rights, except when I don't. Take the guns first, due process later. And anybody on the no-fly list shouldn't be armed. And we don't need bump stocks anymore. Like, there's nothing there. There's nothing there for anybody to admire. There's no substance at all to Donald Trump. He is a blowhard. He is fake through and through. There is nothing to him except braggadociousness. And that is why he won. Because a bunch of people, knowing that there's nothing to them, and they have no substance, and they have no knowledge, and they're a bunch of friggin' losers, admire people just for being loud and obnoxious, because that's all they are capable of. And so the alt-right and other people cheering for Trump, that really is why they wanted him there, because their insecurity and their emptiness and their lack of anything anywhere close to an accomplishment or a knowledge or a skill is just nothing. And they want to see one of their own on the highest throne in the land. And the ultimate joke is on them because, okay, you got a loud, obnoxious jackass on the throne. He's not your buddy anyway. The fact that you're also a loud, obnoxious jackass with no substance doesn't mean he's going to be nice to you. He's going to mistreat you. He's going to stab you in the back too. But it's just a cultural thing. I don't think in a million years somebody that completely, aside from philosophy or any vague trace of philosophy or principles or anything, which Donald Trump has none of, completely aside from that, I don't think in past decades you would have got somebody that obnoxious and empty and fake into the White House. You'd get a different kind of tyrannical, manipulative psycho. But this really is an indication of how pathetically empty and narcissistic American culture has become, that a bunch of people cheered him into office and see him as their savior. It isn't, I'm not even just talking about the people who said, well, Hillary would have been even worse. People who are still cheering for Donald Trump after all his changes of position and all his authoritarian crap and everything he's done. People who are still cheering for him are the most pathetic people around, and deep down inside, they know it. They have a huge pile of fake self-esteem and no real self-esteem, because deep down inside, they aren't anything. Just like Donald Trump.